Hey everybody, Melissa here, the Unlikely Hiker. I don't know about you, but generally speaking, this time of year, I start thinking about all the hikes that I want to do in the upcoming year. Considering the infinite possibilities of all the things and places I could see is just awesome and a little overwhelming. So I thought I would help break that down just a little bit and give you some ways to start planning some trips now and better manage your backpacking time, because I don't know about you, but time is at a premium right now. Sometimes I run out of it, and I want to make really good use of that time when I do have it. So let's dive right in. Like I said, usually around February, I start thinking about all of the trips that I want to do in the upcoming season. Now, just because I start the year off with really grand plans, that doesn't necessarily mean that all of those plans make it to fruition. But I do like to keep a running list of places I would like to see or hikes that I would like to do, because I tend to be more of a goal-oriented person. And by doing this, I always have an arsenal of ideas that I can fall back on if the situation comes up. And that being said, just because I plan some hikes, life gets in the way, finances get in the way, all things can kind of interfere with that, sometimes even weather or flooding or fires. So it's really important to kind of have some loose ideas and plans so that you can squeeze hikes in if something comes up, and then you don't have to squander any time when it's time to go hiking. So early in the season, you do want to first consider your physical ability level. Now, I am busy all winter skiing, and usually I come out of ski season in probably the best shape of the entire year, believe it or not. But you want to consider what your physical ability is like when you start planning. If you've been sitting around or not doing a whole lot in the winter, which is totally fine, no judgment here, come up with some ideas for hikes that are on that level. So for instance, last year when I had my hand surgery, I was very limited as to what I could do. So there was no big water crossings, nothing where I would need to grab something with my hand, so no rock scrambles. And I did keep the hikes kind of to a dull roar, just so I would not injure my hand any further. You also want to consider the length of the hikes that you want to do and match that to your ability level, the strenuous nature of the hike that you'd like to do, and also match that to your ability level. That's not to say that you can't add other hikes to your arsenal that are above your skill level, because in a perfect world, you very well may work yourself up from point A to point B during a hiking season. Second tip for planning your yearly hikes is consider the season that you'll be hiking in. Like I said, I have a bunch of hikes that I would like to do, and a lot of these could really be done in any season, but some are done best in particular seasons. For instance, the Taconic Crest Trail I did do last year. It had been on my radar for a few years. I'm going to do it again this year, but that's a hike that's best done before it gets too hot. There is no water on this trail. Actually, I take that back. I think there's one spot where there's a spring, but you have to cache your water. So if you do that particular hike in the springtime, there's more of a chance of water, and there's also a chance of snow being in some certain areas. So in a pinch, if you needed to, you can kind of boil that. Conversely, several years ago, I did the Cranberry Lake 50 on Memorial Day weekend, just as the black flies were coming out. That was a nightmare. I absolutely want to do the Cranberry Lake 50 again this year, but I would like to do it before the black flies come out. Northville Placid Trail is another one. I would love to do this hike, but for me, I have this super romantic idea about how I want to do it, and I would like to do it in its entirety, not section it if possible, but I would like it to be warm enough where I can enjoy the water sources that are there if I want to, but I don't want it to be too late in the fall where it's too cold to do that. But because of the nature of that particular hike, I don't want the temperatures to be sweltering either. If you're just getting back into backpacking and hiking for the season, consider some shorter hikes, some shorter backpacking trips, base camping, and doing some day hikes from there. There's a lot of ways you can tailor what you're doing to the level that you're at in the beginning of the season. So another tip that I have for you is write down all of those ideas, especially if there's a bunch in a particular area like here in the Adirondacks, because the more hikes that you write down and you research, it gives you the ability to pivot in case there's something wrong with the trail that you want to hike on for various reasons, and it allows you to pivot and still enjoy that trip that you had been planning. If a trail is closed, flooded, something, who knows, anything. If it comes up, it allows you to still enjoy a subsequent hike without your whole weekend or day being ruined. This kind of ties into the next tip is consider all of those trail conditions. Apps like AllTrails and Gaia are a great tool to start to plan your hikes, but you also need to get intel on those trails for the conditions that you're experiencing. These conditions do change dramatically, sometimes daily, and you need to be prepared and know of all of these conditions ahead of time. Just because it's sunny outside of your window does not mean that there's not a foot of fresh snow up in the mountains. Rolling right into the next tip is consider the weather. When you have your list of hikes in different areas, in this case I'm looking at hikes in the Adirondacks, Massachusetts, Catskills, sometimes a little bit beyond that. But when you have a bunch of areas that you have already researched and written down of places that you'd like to visit, if it's raining up in the Adirondacks, maybe it's going to be sunny and dry in the Catskills or in Massachusetts. Or maybe if the plan is for the Catskills and it's going to rain there, maybe it's going to be dry in the Adirondacks. So by having a bunch of hikes written down and saved and researched, it's going to allow you again to pivot and enjoy that precious time that you have out on the trail. In addition, it's important to monitor the weather because warm daytime temperatures and cooler nights, it could potentially cause issues for runoff, swollen streams, still snow on the ground when you get out to the trail. So by monitoring all of these conditions, it's going to allow you to help predict, in addition to getting recent intel on those trails, of what you're going to experience while you're out there. When those streams start moving in the springtime, it absolutely can wash bridges out, and you really want to find these things out ahead of time. And there's lots of resources to find this information out, not just social media or Facebook groups, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. I also have to point out here that in considering the weather, you also need to remember that it's probably going to be colder where you're headed than where you're sitting at home right now. So you want to make sure that you prepare for cooler temperatures and check the weather for the location that you want to be in, not the location that you're at when you're making those plans, if that makes sense. You want to make sure that you pack all of those layers appropriately. I really cannot stress this enough. Temperatures can absolutely drop in early spring and late fall. So now that you've considered some of these other factors, you want to go ahead and make a plan or an itinerary. And when you're doing this, you want to keep safety in mind. So with your list of possible hikes, it's time to dive in and research some of those trails. If the hike I want to do I've never done before, or it's an area that I haven't visited in a long time, I'm going to look to some maybe Facebook groups to get some intel on the trail, look at maps, trail guides, other people's videos on the trail or the region that I'd like to visit, so I can get a sense of what I'm going to encounter while I'm out there. I like to study topographic maps and get kind of a feel of the land, and I also want to know what my orientation is in a particular area, so in the event of an emergency, I know I could head west and hit a road or north and hit a road, whatever. I want to find out where I am in relation to everything else around me in case there's an emergency. It may help me navigate my way out of the woods safely. I like to research camping options for base camping. If it's a backpacking trip, how far apart are the camping spots? Do I need a permit? What water sources are there? Is there any food storage requirements in the particular area? You know, do I need a bear canister, or is hanging a bear bag sufficient? There's so many factors that you want to look into the hikes that you're going on before you head out so that you're prepared for what you're doing. Since you don't know what you don't know, let curiosity kind of guide this progress. And you can also look to web pages or reach out to local land managers or rangers to find out some information before your trip so that you are prepared with everything that you need to know to be out there. Most of the information that you need will be available online, but I would say create a folder in your phone or your computer or even just a notebook and jot things down, and keep a journal entry of the hikes that you want to do, and then the requirements or any special things that you need to know about those areas ahead of time. And this is going to come into play when you're ready to go out on that trip. Another factor that you want to remember is if there's an emergency number for the area that you're traveling. So for instance, Adirondack High Peaks, there's a ranger dispatch number. You want to program those into your phone first. Calling 911 if you have cell service is an option. However, it's not going to connect you immediately with the people that can help you the best first. So you want to reach out to the correct people, and the only way to do that is if you are prepared and you have those numbers ahead of time. Also, when I'm trying to create a plan, I reach out to people that have done the trail before me when possible. So regarding the NPT, I have some friends that have already hiked it. So they're obviously a fantastic source of information for me, and that's going to help me plan my trip, because I'm going to go through their experiences, relate it to what my ability level is, and then I'm going to plan my trip. And it's going to help me effectively manage all of that information and make a plan that makes sense for me, my timeline, and my safety. If you don't have any friends that have done the trail before, there are always those social media groups, a lot of subgroups that are going to share the information. They've done the trail and they're out there to help each other get out there and hike some of these beautiful spaces. Now, when you take the time to pre-prepare and come up with lists of ideas of places that you'd like to hike, how many days it's going to take, what you're going to need to know, anything special about the area, all of these things that you should do ahead of time, it makes it easy to plan last minute hikes because most of the work is already done. So let's say you were supposed to go do something and those plans fell through for the weekend. You're like, oh my God, I have a free weekend. It's going to be glorious out. And wow, I'd like to go hiking, but I don't know where to go and this and that. And there's all of these hurdles all of a sudden get in the way. And it very well might stop you from going backpacking if you don't have a place already mapped out for yourself that you can go visit. So by keeping a running journal of all of this information, it's going to help you better manage your time. It's going to get you out onto more hikes, more enjoyment. And isn't that what it's about? Why would you squander time when you want to be hiking? Since you don't have to waste time researching some of these hikes, it's going to allow you to be like, wow, I've got 3 free days. Okay, what can I do in 2 to 3 days and bang that out? Then all you have to do is pack your pack. But that allows you to quickly pivot and get outside with very little thought. So the last thing you need to do when you're doing some early season trip planning is just eventually make it happen. By doing all of this legwork when you're still in kind of the colder season that a lot of people would prefer not to backpack in, you're going to propel yourself forward every time a beautiful day presents itself. And these ideas hold true whether it's a day hike or a week-long trip. Have some options available for yourself. Do all of the research and homework ahead of time. Know everything you need to know ahead of time. And then all you have to do is open up a computer file or a notebook and say, I've got 1 day, 3 days, 2 days. What can I go hike that I've been wanting to do? It's going to help ease some of the barriers to get out into the backcountry. Taking the time to plan and consider all of the hikes that maybe you could do in a calendar year is so exciting because it's limitless possibilities. It doesn't really matter what ends up happening, really. I mean, it does. Our goal for all of us is to get out there and enjoy the outdoors, but the ability to just contemplate all that could be is an awesome feeling. It's exciting to think about the endless opportunities and possibilities that are out there that you don't even know of yet. And personally, I found that pre-planning out your trips helps you achieve some of these goals because it gives you a list to work off of. And as you cross these things off, it really feeds your soul and it makes you feel really good about all the things that you're accomplishing. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. You guys, thanks for watching. Take care. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.